1 second. So what I'm going to show you is, I think, a little different because, of course, we can't compete with the hardcore coding we just saw. And the story is that most people who know me know that I was not convinced by variable fonts, and that I had my doubts last year at the TYPO Labs. And then I was lucky because I got really, really kicked by Yves Peters and by Georg. So Yves dragged me out and he said, hey, listen, sit down, I have to tell you about variable fonts. And I think you really got me by the fact of the environmental topic that variable fonts are very, very small and you need less energy and nuclear power stations to run the servers. So this is how to get me. No, but this is how I just thought, maybe I should have a look. And then I saw that there's much, much more. And the thing is, when I start to get interested, I'm getting really interested and I want to know everything. And so I was very lucky because Georg was so kind, and I think Rainer and Georg dragged most of our other audience to their workshop. So I got kitchen table tutorials by Georg just before I gave this workshop in Warsaw. And we had this in January, which is already a few months ago. And I think I approached Anna and said, Anna, I'm going to do this variable fonts workshop in Warsaw, and maybe I could have do a presentation on this. And then I just thought, I don't know what's going to happen. And no one knew what was going to happen because there are no references in teaching variable fonts. And I was invited to actually just do a workshop on type design. And then Eva Satalecka, who invited me, said, yeah, and you can have Maciej as your assistant and co-instructor. And then I just thought, yes, this is the chance, let's do variable fonts. And so we didn't know what could turn out or what was going to happen. And then we just started. And we had 4.5 days. And the sad news was, but actually it turned out to be a good news, was that Maciej was sick, really, really sick. And I started 2 days alone, old style, in the way like I knew how I was teaching type design. And what you also have to know is that the students we were teaching are not type designers. They are second-year schools for media communication. Multimedia communication. So they didn't know anything about type design, and you gave them some instructions on modules, because I just thought, okay, with variable fonts and working in glyphs, what was our intention, the best is to work with modules, because then you have quick success and it's very motivating. So I taught the very first basics of type design and vectors, because I think the making proper outlines and vectors, this is the key. The assignment was to design a typeface, but actually not a typeface, because it was more like illustrative uppercase letters, inspired by the city of Warsaw. And luckily, most of you have been to A-Type High Warsaw. You are quite familiar with the city, I guess. And you know that there's a lot of inspiration in the city. And so after my basics, I was showing this great presentation from Lawrence at the CSS conference. So we watched this video, and I think this is very, very inspiring, especially for non-type designers. And it was very, very helpful. So thank you to Lawrence. And the second was that I introduced Access Praxis and explained, so I tried to explain the masters, how to work with masters. And they were playing a little bit with Access Praxis to see what it is. And so part of the assignment was to really design these uppercase shapes in 2 masters. And the 2 masters should be used for animation, because multimedia students, so it's nice to have these things as animations. And when you're working with animations, with keyframes, you want to tell a story. So this was the assignment, this was the idea, the idea behind the inspiration. And what they came up with was incredible, and we started actually with 40 students. And luckily, Eva chased mostly everybody away. And she said, you have to be very serious about this, otherwise leave. And I think then after she said this, we had 12 students.
8?
No, we ended with 8, but we had these, there were some Erasmus students that never came back.
Yeah.
And, and this was the pure luxury. We enjoyed it so much because, I mean, 2 instructors for 12 students, it was great, and at the end 8. And so we had the really interested people. And Philip, for example, this is how we did it. I said, okay, bring your inspiration. I want to have this as sketches. I want to have photographs or something. So bring me your idea, and we will talk about your idea first. So Philip came up with this fantastic idea. We have this here in East Germany too, and these are these strange garden sheds. And they are built DIY style, and they are built from all kinds of stuff you can't buy. So it's this economy of scarcity idea. And they are super charming. And he showed so many photographs of these beautiful little sheds. And this is what he did with this. So this is one master. And this is Mr. Crab, we said. So it looks like Mr. Crab. And so the idea of these outlines, or what I was teaching was, and I have to say, until Maciej came back, they didn't understand the idea of masters. And then you just showed one thing, and they were like, these are masters. And I was a little disappointed. So working with the outline is mostly about how to hide the notes. Because when you have this straight line, you see that we've got little points in it that are actually not needed in this master, but of course in the other one. So the idea is, or how I introduced the idea of working with the animations is start with a more complex master, the ones where there's everything happening, and then you double this, and then you reduce the shapes in the less complex master. So it was a lot about these outlines and to actually cheat on the curves. And then you see that these shapes were very, very complex. And then there's, of course, this getting all the orders right, the starting points, and so on. And you see that, I mean, they were doing really great, even they were very, very first time confronted with this stuff. This is also a fantastic idea. There is this synagogue from I think 1660-something.
1664.
Thank you.
First time.
It's great to teach with him, actually. And so this inspiration was only by the decoration in the synagogue. So it's a replica of the actual synagogue in the museum. And it's with floral images, with floral elements, but also with super spiky triangle elements and this beautiful Hebrew. And so these are just sketches from the beginning, and I just thought, no, we are not doing hair and makeup on skeletons. So you have to work with the actual shape and not just put decoration on something. So I said, nope, wrong approach. And then this happened. It was incredible because she was so good in this. And then you see this guy there in the middle. This is Adam Cook. He's actually he did a workshop on data visualization in the same school to the same time, and he was fascinated by the possibilities of variable fonts. And this is why I think we should think wider. We should think into other fields. And I think it's great because he's going to do something with the sensors and with the, so how can you show data, or how can you visualize transformation in society, for example, with a variable font. And yeah, so we were deeply impressed because, remember, floral. So this is what she did. Triangles. Try to get the connection. And the connection is, okay, we were messing up the curves, so we were not focused on the extreme points yet. this was too early, this would have been too much. But so there is a lot about hiding the handle, because you can't just erase the handle and then you've got the point. You have to really smoothly put them just almost into the point. And then, yeah, you see all the elements and how you have to arrange them. This is also super nice. It's inspired by this very famous brutalist station in Warsaw. And it actually already is readable in this version, but you just don't know how. And this is the second master. Yeah, and this is how the elements work together, and this is what the students, they were so hard working, and they were just starting. And here you see all the tests and everything, how to arrange it. I mean, I love them all, but I really, really like this one. So inspired by brutalism. And here it's mostly about how to hide entire elements, because you see that there are, in one version, there are more elements than in the other. So you see this mess of modules and elements. And then this is also super nice. It goes from Baroque to also modernism. So this is, yeah, so this was too complex and I think too crappy and too difficult, and there were not many components. So it was much better to work with smoother components and less elements, still enough. So this is the second master.
Thank you. So after we had the masters done, there was a time of testing, because of course it's very easy to just duplicate the first master and then apply changes. I mean, not easy, you need to get the idea. But then you need to test it, and then it was 4 months ago, as we mentioned, and this was a list of tools we could use for testing. But of course, each of the students was a different environment for the computer. So we had some troubles. For example, here you can see the Axis Praxis is not working with the font. And the biggest problem was that the testing of the variable font meant exporting, which was still beta, and I think it still has the beta label in the glyphs. So we got a lot of errors. This one is fixed now with the new update, which is super nice, because actually a lot of stuff that happened during the conference changed the presentation and changed the possibilities we had. So we reworked the fonts. But then the same font had a different problem, so we had to rebuild it. And then, of course, you cannot export a font if any glyph is not compatible, so we just simply not export this. It's super basic. But then, still, it is a problem, I think, somehow, for working. And then here you see, of course, the letter V not exporting in the new update. So we had to choose something which is possible for us to test without exporting. So we went for the instance slider by Toshi Yamagari. If you don't use it, it's super nice, and it did the job for the workshops. It's available from the plugin manager in Glyphs.
You saved us, honestly.
Thank you. So you can see the same slide. It's not exporting, but it is fully animating inside the Glyphs preview panel. So this was our lifesaver. And then what if the slider doesn't work, because sometimes it didn't work because of, I think, different environments? Well, we tried to do a bit of this. So we just increased the weight in the preview panel for the instance, which is, of course, the worst possible way of seeing how the interpolation works. So we went for self-written HTML, CSS, and we had a very little website. Of course, we had to export for this, where we attached the weight and width value to the mouse position, which felt a bit more human, I think, than the sliders. So this is also nice to see the previous talks about how we should use the sliders, and also Sahara's talk about the UE, about how it works. But then still with the website, we had some troubles with not compatible stuff. And inside so this is the weird patterns we're getting. But inside the slider, it is working. So the slider is cool, but I think also you have to test it in a different environment because sometimes there is stuff you cannot predict. And if you trust students, you can end up having this. If you see over the C and G, there is a super not necessary point. And there was one which I found, which was like this. So the slider worked, it was all fine, but then the browsers couldn't manage. So this is something, if you work with students, probably you need to pay more attention on how they actually do inside the file. And now, after we redone, the whole font is working, so Axis Praxis is perfect still. We also did tests on this newest Mecha Blue script, which he announced, I think, 2 days or yesterday. Yesterday. Yeah. The HTML export, it's super cool. Then it's also, Thomas told me there is this OTV var player, which is unfortunately only one master. Yeah. So maybe we need an update on this for the variables. And so this is the list of all the tools I came across, and maybe if you know more to test, I'll be happy to know. And then finally, we'll present the fonts. So this is Filip Wyrzykowski with the Domki Gardens, which is falling apart just as it is in real life. It's 2 masters. Then we have Weronika Ławska, which did the synagogue, jumping from very curvy to the sharp lines. Then it's Adam Kim with the Ochota station. Olivia Przeździecka with the brutalism typeface, which actually is the most.
She was incredible.
Advanced.
She's the one on our starting slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is so cool.
And then Joanna Świderska with Warszawa typeface. The one which was the most problematic for us. And then we also decided to have a website for it. And we are super proud, because we are super proud of the students' work. So you can basically just choose a font, and you have a slider, you have the description, and we ask some questions which we felt might be good for further workshops about how they did. So you can, of course, type in TYPO Labs, and you can see how this works. This one has 2 axes. And then finally the Ochota station. And there is the little...
And the old town is the sad story of the Germans destroying Warsaw.
Yeah. And this is from one Erasmus student who actually survived the workshops and stayed with us.
Yeah.
And then there is the little info panel for the workshops and all the credits. And then, so this is the website for if you want to have a look. It's online, I think. And then I will just use this time, if we have any, to do 2 private announcements.
Please.
The school that we were involved with is running a Type and Tech master course very soon. There is no information yet anywhere. So if you're interested, you can write an email or we can talk, or you can wait for a bit. For sure, it will be online soon. And then I'm personally having a little project coming soon, so if you want to have a look, it's still a newsletter form, so you can sign up, and hopefully next week it's online. Okay, and that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.